Okay, we'll proceed and we'll just let more people in as and when they are in the lobby. Good morning all, and welcome to Getting Back to Business with an introduction to social media. My name is Deborah Millington and I work for the London Borough of Tower Hamlets within the enterprise team, and I will be your host for today's session. Your team for today's masterclass include Lucy Collins. Lucy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Lucy Collins. I'm Partnerships Coordinator at Tower Hamlets Council. I'm currently working with Deborah and part of the enterprise team to develop a suite of support for local businesses to try and help the business community during these unprecedented times.
Thank you so much, Lucy. Eduardo? Do we have Eduardo in the room?
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you now, yeah.
I was on mute. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hello? Oh, okay, amazing. So first of all, it's a pleasure to partner with the enterprise team from Tower Hamlets to deliver these masterclasses, Getting Back to Business. I would say we speak to business every day, to business owners, and it's amazing to see the power of their determination to survive this pandemic and to get to the other side stronger. That's so fundamental. I think this courage to wake up the next day, do something different, do more, and the opportunity to connect expertise to help these business owners to thrive really inspires me. And this is really powerful in my view. The combination of the will to win from the business owners and leaders to expertise from professionals who have successfully done that before many times. And that's pretty much at the heart of Mastersome. So very briefly, we are a group of consultants with experience in large organizations and large projects. One day we looked around and realized that there are over 5 million businesses in the UK with very limited access to management consulting. So we joined efforts to build a network of independent experts to help UK businesses on demand. My name is Ed, co-founder of Mastersome. I'll be around throughout the event and after. I'll share our contact details in the chat. It will be great to speak with you during the networking and after.
Thanks, Eduardo. And Dimitri?
Hi, everyone. My name is Dimitri. I'm head of business development for Mastersome. So work together with Ed to identify new clients, new businesses that we can help survive and thrive in this uncertain time. So what I do, I identify, develop, and manage new relationships, new partnerships, and help our partners thrive. I'll be here with you throughout the whole session and during the networking, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have and to network. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dimitri. So today's masterclass is the second in our series of masterclasses, which we are planning in order to support our local SMEs. We are pleased to be collaborating with local business support organisations like Mastersome, and we hope to develop these types of relationships further with other local organisations. Before we start and before I hand you over to our facilitator, just some ground rules and housekeeping. As I mentioned at the top of this masterclass, this event will be recorded. Please mute yourselves and turn your cameras off just to preserve the quality of the masterclass. And if you have any questions, please add them to the chat function, which myself and Lucy will monitor throughout the course of the training. But there's also a designated Q&A towards the end of once Claire has finished presenting. And that will be an opportunity for both you to raise your hands, but also for us to go to the chat and answer any further questions. And then there will also be an opportunity to network after that. So without further ado, I will hand you over to our facilitator for the day, Claire Taylor, who will introduce herself and commence the presentation. So over to you, Claire. Claire, are you there? Are you on mute? Can you mute yourself? Claire, can you unmute yourself, please?
Okay, can you all hear me now?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, fab. And can you all see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
So we are just going to start. So I am Claire Taylor. As I say, thank you very much for joining us this morning. I am a social media manager and a Facebook ad specialist, and I predominantly help small businesses to both manage their social media, but also kind of learn or teach them how to leverage social media for their businesses so that they can achieve their objectives. There is a lot to cover. It's quite a broad topic to cover in the kind of 30 to 40 minutes. So I'm going to try to cover the following this morning. So we start off with knowing the importance of your customer, your audience, and creating buyer and user personas. We'll take a look at the dreaded algorithms, what the algorithm is, what the algorithms are, and how to actually play the game. We'll look at the different types of social media content and how to create content for your social media platforms, the best practice to apply. And then finally have a look at data. So using insights to test and refine your approach to make sure you're doing what works and tweaking what isn't working. So without further ado, before we get started, I thought let's just have a bit of fun. Using the chat, if you don't mind, if you could pop in the chat one emoji that best represents how you currently feel about your social media, how you feel about using social media for your business. It would just be really good to gauge how people are feeling about it and how confident you feel in using social media. Unfortunately, I can't see the chat. So Deborah, I think if people are starting to put their emojis in, let me know kind of what the general feeling is, whether we're happy, whether we're kind of scratching our heads, whether it just fills us with horror.
Yeah, I see a few teary eyes.
Okay.
Yeah, a few teary eyes so far. But
yeah, I totally get that. Fair enough.
Smiley faces as well. So it's a bit
okay, well, that's good. Perfect. Okay, good. So essentially we'll do the same thing again at the end, and I really very much hope that we can kind of instill a bit of confidence and give you a bit of information to take you forward with your social media journey. So we will start with a few stats, I think. Facebook is by far and away the biggest social platform. It's the most used with 2.45 billion active monthly users globally. Which I think is absolutely staggering, particularly when you think that the world's population is 7.8 billion with today's figures. So 2.45 billion users is crazy. In the UK specifically, there are around 45 million users. So Facebook is so huge and it's so powerful, not just for kind of, personal users, but for business particularly. Facebook is adding 500 new users every day, which equates to 6 new profiles every second. Again, another kind of mind-blowing figure. And 1.62 billion users visit Facebook on a daily basis. And the fact that there are 300 million daily users of Facebook stories is just testament to how important ephemeral content is. So time-limited content like stories, etc. 88% of Facebook users actually use the platform to keep in touch with friends and family. So Facebook's algorithm, and we'll touch on the algorithm later, they prioritize content from your friends and family over posts from businesses, which means that it is becoming more and more difficult for brands to get their content seen. Organic reach on Facebook is, well, it's a horrible phrase, but organic reach is almost dead, which is why businesses are turning to paid social advertising to get their products or services featured in people's feeds. On to Instagram. So Instagram is kind of hot on the heels of Facebook. They're chomping at their heels. They've got over 1 billion active monthly users, and 90% of those users follow a business on the platform. So this means that people really want to hear from brands. It's such a great place, particularly for B2C brands. And everyone knows Instagram is the kind of visual platform. So it's great if you've got products that that are very visual, that are kind of really great aesthetically. And 83% of users discover new brands and services on the platform. It's great for social proof. Social proof essentially is looking at what your friends and family kind of rate the companies that they're following, feedback from users, etc. So social proof is so important. The average user is spending 53 minutes per day browsing Instagram. That just means it's such an engaging platform. So we have to be, as business owners, we have to be on Instagram. And just for fun, the most popular accounts, Cristiano Ronaldo with 238 million followers. Ariana Grande close behind on 202 million, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson on 198 million. So it's a pretty powerful platform. Next up, I've actually included LinkedIn because it is the most important. It's the largest professional network. It's the most important network for B2B. So it's ideal for businesses who sell to other businesses. There are currently 660 million registered users, but 330 million of those are kind of active on a monthly basis. So still a pretty hefty figure. 90 million of which are senior level influencers, and 63 million are in decision-making positions. So you can see how important it is to be kind of present in that kind of platform. And it's 277% more effective than Facebook, which is, at the top of the leaderboard, for lead generation and customer acquisition. So it's vital that businesses, particularly the B2B businesses, are on LinkedIn. Next up, I wanted to start off properly by talking about how important it is to really know your audience. I always think that marketing, without really knowing your audience, is a bit like trying to find like a mate in a nightclub when it's kind of pitch black, it's absolutely packed out, and you've got a blindfold on. It's just ridiculous. It's possible, but it would take a lot of time and effort. So instead, what we really need to do is focus our social media marketing efforts on the people who are most likely to buy from or use your business. We need to think about who they are, where do they live, what job do they do, are they married, do they have children, how much do they earn, which social media platforms are they on day to day. We need to be where they are, and we need to think about what's important to them. We need to think about how we can solve their problems, their challenges, their pain points. So the most important the most important thing is, if we know our audience, we can really be very laser focused with our marketing efforts. As small business owners, we don't have a lot of time or resources to target a huge number of people. We really want to hone down our targeting and focus on our ideal customer, our perfect audience, because it's too expensive and too time consuming to target everyone. And if you know your audience, you can determine how best to talk to them about your product or your service, by thinking about the message you're putting out there about your brand, and also kind of crafting the right tone of voice for your business. We could talk about tone of voice for your business in a completely separate session, but there's lots to talk about, but we'll kind of carry on. But essentially what I'm trying to say is, there's no point talking about weddings and a wedding industry to someone who's already married. Equally, it's completely pointless to talk to somebody about bargains at Aldi when they're a kind of typical Waitrose customer. So it's know your audience and craft your content to that particular audience. What I've done here is, I usually do this as a kind of in-workshop exercise, but because we're quite time limited today, I would suggest that you create 2 or 3 buyer personas for your business. Go into as much detail as possible using these questions that are listed here. Do this in your own time, and the slides will be sent to you after the workshop. But this is a great way to kind of create your ideal customer, and then you can use this information to really kind of laser focus your marketing to them. The most important thing is that we're putting our ideal customer at the absolute heart of all of our social media efforts and our strategy. As I say, that will be available in the slides afterwards, but I really do urge you, before you do anything else, create those user or buyer personas and use that as your foundation. It's the most important thing. So we head into the next part of the workshop, which this topic tends to make people run a mile, and that's algorithms. But bear with me, I will try and explain it in as simple terms as possible, and hopefully explain why knowing how the algorithm works will mean that we'll be able to create better content and a better social media strategy for our businesses. In a nutshell, social networks prioritize the content a user sees in their feed first by the likelihood that they'll actually want to see it. Gone are the days when it was chronologically based, so it doesn't matter when you post it. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, whoever, their algorithm will decide who and when your content is seen by. Content presented to a user comes from a very, very complex mathematical equation, but essentially it's based on the quality of the content that you're putting out there, but also the user's actions and reactions to specific chunks of content historically. So the most important thing is we need to know how to work with the algorithms, not against them. You can't kind of cheat the algorithm. There's just no way. So we have to know how it works in order to get the most out of our social media content and for our social media efforts to be successful. So how do we play the game? We want to ensure that the content that you're spending huge amounts of time and resources creating gives you the most bang for your buck. So we need to know how to play the algorithm game. You could have 10,000 followers, but if half of them have been bought, so if you're buying followers, which by the way is a complete and utter no-no, half of them are very unlikely to be engaged with your brand, and half of them are unlikely to buy from your brand or use your service. So we need to focus on building an engaged community, and the kind of key point here is that quality is better than quantity. Forget the vanity metrics of followers. Engagement is king, and we need to work on building engaged communities in order to get the algorithm to put our content kind of further up the priority into people's feeds. One of the other key things that is really important is that we're present and active on social media. I spoke to a client the other day, and she was looking at someone's social media account. She said they haven't really posted very much for weeks and weeks on end, so I don't even know if they're still working. Make sure you're posting consistently, regularly, content that's of value to your kind of target customer, but also make sure you're posting when the majority of your customers are online. And that's something that your insights from the social media platforms will be able to tell you when the majority of your followers are actually online. Thirdly, hashtags. And again, we could run a completely separate workshop on hashtags. But make sure you're using them, particularly on Instagram, which is where hashtags are just so vital. They're so important and so useful. On Instagram, you're given an opportunity. You're given 30 opportunities in your hashtags to reach a whole new audience. So I just think use every hashtag opportunity to position your content, reach new followers, and you'll build your following of people who are actually interested in that topic. Next up, video. And lots of people are quite kind of nervous about video, but unfortunately, the social networks are prioritizing video. It's all about the video right now. So whether that's live video, pre-recorded, reels, video and stories, you've got to include it in your social media strategy. So think about how you might be able to do that for your small business. It may just be, a quick video of kind of behind the scenes, your day-to-day kind of running your business. But it must include it, and you'll see your kind of reach and engagement really improve. We talked about organic reach, particularly on Facebook, being very tricky. It is very difficult to kind of to get any organic reach on Facebook. So you may want to think about paying for paid social media advertising through Facebook ads, Google ads, that kind of thing. It's one way to get around the algorithm. Ephemeral content is very important. So stories, so ephemeral content being time limited content. So at the moment, Instagram stories, for example, are they just live on the platform for 24 hours. They are thinking about extending that to 3 days, but ephemeral content is really well consumed. People live and breathe it. So you need to kind of build stories into your social media strategy. I think one of the most important things, though, is that you, as a business owner, need to try and encourage meaningful conversations, start the conversations and drive discussion, drive debate. You've got to be social. Social media it's the clues in the title. You've got to be sociable. So encourage your users or your followers to talk to you, to talk to each other. And there are so many tools available to you in order to kind of help you along with that. Creating polls, using the DM me sticker in stories, using the stories sliders, just asking questions. And it's also, asking questions is a great way to actually just quite simply ask your audience what they want to hear from you, what topics they're interested in. What's their opinion on your kind of social media kind of approach? People love to share an opinion. So don't be scared to kind of put a question out there and try and kind of start the conversation going. Lastly, on the algorithm game, it's really important that we're not spammy, and we don't want to over promote our businesses. We don't want to ask people for likes or comments or shares. The algorithms, the social networks will just shut you down for that, and your reach will be just kind of next to zero. So what you need to focus on is creating content that adds value, that works to your kind of customers' challenges. And that essentially, in a nutshell, is how we play the algorithm game. Let's go on to kind of talk about social media content, the different forms of social media, essentially. A good kind of social media user will try and kind of mix things up a bit and keep things interesting, and use all of the kind of social media content tools in their arsenal. So I've just literally listed some ideas here just to kind of spark your creativity, but as well as the kind of normal photos or images, pop your images in a carousel. Carousels are shown to improve engagement. We've already touched on video, live video. It's really important that we include video in our strategies. Use Instagram and Facebook stories, create graphics and infographics, use GIFs, animations, and then lastly, I've put user-generated content. So trying to encourage our kind of our users or our followers to post photos of them using our product or consuming our products, or kind of using our services. Could be testimonials or reviews or feedback on what we're kind of offering as business owners. So those are just some of the different types of social media content that kind of are at your fingertips. So content creation and best practice. Think about what your kind of objective is. Are you trying to build brand awareness? Apologies. Mail popping up. Yeah, are you thinking about building brand awareness? Is it leads you're after? Is it straightforward sales? Whatever your objective is, make sure your content is focused on getting you to that end goal. But do some research into what your ideal customer is interested in, and think about their challenges, and particularly highlight how your business can solve those challenges for you. If we can trigger some emotion in a follower or a user, then all the better. I always suggest to my clients that we use a mix of content that delivers on positioning them as subject matter experts, or the go-to brand for XYZ. That we deliver on problem solving, as we talked about, so solve a person's problem or challenge. People really care about their issues, their problems, and if you can solve something for them, bingo. You've probably got a kind of brand advocate for life. And lastly, don't forget to promote your business, your products, your services. Make sure you know who you are and what your business does exactly. I've put also create a content plan for the month ahead. I find this really, really useful. It just keeps you focused on your kind of content pillars, so what you're trying to achieve with your content. And if you kind of batch creating content, if you're just setting aside maybe half a day each month just to think about what you want to talk about, and then actually creating that content, it really does help with kind of time management. And then think carefully about your tone of voice. Create content for your buyer or user persona. Oh, sorry, I don't know whether that was a question, but I'll carry on and take some questions at the end. I've put some content creation tools in here that I use on a regular basis. So the top ones that spring to mind are Canva, Adobe Spark, Giphy, and Unsplash. Unsplash is a free resource for photography. Fantastic photography from very talented photographers all over the world. Both Canva and Adobe Spark are great for creating visuals for your, and Giphy obviously for GIFs. I've put some links to all of these tools in these slides at the very end. So once this is sent through to you at the end of the workshop, you'll be able to gain access and just have a look at these tools in your own time. Most of them are very user friendly, so I'm hoping that you'd be able to kind of incorporate them into your social media content production quite easily. One of the key things I think with brands on social media is that people like to buy from other people. People like to buy from brands with a face. So with your content creation, it's really important that you kind of let people in. It breeds trust in your brand, and also it's quite a fun way of kind of sharing your day-to-day operations with the people who are going to either buy from you or use your service. Again, we talk about hashtags. Hashtags, use your hashtags on Instagram. On Facebook, there's still a big question mark over whether to use them, whether they actually improve your reach at all. But really important on both Instagram posts and Instagram stories. And then going back to actually being very sociable on social media and creating content that sparks discussion, debate, conversation. So ask those questions, create those polls, use sliders, pop on that DM me sticker, and lastly, include a call to action. Sometimes you just need to lead the horse to water. Trust me. As obvious as you think it might be in terms of what you want the end user to do, always just use a call to action. So whether that's shop now, or follow the link in the bio, or find out more, or click here for more information, make sure you include that on every one of your pieces of content. But at the end of the day, I really wanted to make the point that use your head and your heart to create good quality content that adds value for your audience. That will always trump any kind of tools or technology. And it will work with the algorithm rather than against it. So moving on to analytics, another topic that has people heading for the hills more often than not. Data, it can be quite scary, but if you can grasp how to read the data from your social media platforms, the insights, you'll just be much better informed about what's working and what might need tweaking. It can mean, if you understand social media analytics, it can mean the difference between success or failure in achieving the results that you want for your business, essentially. Analytics help us track our progress. So yeah, it helps us measure those vanity metrics like followers, but more importantly, we can track our engagement rates. We can track, how many likes or comments, what our reaction times to questions or kind of calls for customer service are. It will tell us what the best times to actually put content out there, what times are the best times to post. Because we've got an eye on when the majority of our followers are online. It helps us determine which platforms are the best for our businesses. We've talked about Instagram and Facebook being good for B2C businesses, LinkedIn being very valuable for B2B businesses. But the kind of proof is in the pudding, and you need to work out where your ideal customer spends their time, which platform they're spending time on. As we've talked about, analytics and data will tell you what you're doing right and what could be improved. Overall, it can help you shape your social media strategy. And also, as we've said before, we're all, we're small business owners. We don't have huge teams or resources or budgets to kind of throw at social media. So we want to consistently be creating content that hits the mark and adds value and, gets us the results that we want. So analytics is a really important thing to try and grasp and use, and also monitor on a regular basis, whether that's, monthly, whether it's quarterly. I really do suggest that you sit down on a regular basis and just look at, what you're doing and actually try and kind of hone in on what's working and what's not. Test and refine. So the key metrics to have a look out for when you are looking at your social media data. Engagement. As we know, engagement is king. So the metrics you need to look out for: your likes, your comments, your shares, and your clicks through to your websites. Awareness. So brand awareness, if you're at the very beginning of your kind of brand story, brand awareness is probably going to be quite a key objective for your business. So that will be shown in your impressions, how many people have seen your content, how many times, and how many people you've actually reached overall. Return on investment, that's going to be a key one. So how many conversions have we had from social media? How many referrals? How many leads? Are our lead magnets doing what they should be? Is social media working hard enough for my business? Customer care. I mean, I just think people are so focused on customer care right now, and particularly with, so much on kind of Trustpilot and TripAdvisor and all of these review sites. We need to be seen to be offering kind of top-notch customer service. So we need to keep an eye on those response rates and response times from our social media platforms, because so many people these days are using social media for their customer service requirements. And then lastly, your share of voice. So how do people feel about your business? How are you doing compared to a competitor in the same field? What volume of the market are you actually gaining access to? So these are the key metrics that I would recommend that you focus on when you're kind of looking at your data on the regular basis that we've suggested. So just moving on, I wanted to leave you with just a few. We've covered a lot in a very short space of time, and I know that's kind of just throwing information out there at you, but as I say, you'll get the slides afterwards, and feel free to kind of go through them and kind of take your time trying to kind of digest what we've been talking about. There's a lot more that we could talk about, but for now, I think it's probably important for me to summarize and leave you with some top tips for making social media work for your business. So in at number one, know who you want to sell to and create content with them in mind, them at the very heart of it. You need to always, I mean, to the point where I've got Post-it notes up on my wall around my computer where I aspects of my user persona or my buyer persona, just, am I creating content for that person and why should they care? Number two, my recommendation is focus on how to be social and not how to do social. If you're very sociable on your kind of platforms, the reach, the brand awareness, the sales, the leads, it will come because you'll be building an engaged community just by being sociable, by driving those conversations and interactions, and actually appearing more human, less kind of faceless brand and more kind of brand with a face. Number 3, get comfortable with video. And I know this fills some people with horror, but unfortunately, that is where it's at. Video is just so important, and the platforms are prioritizing it over other content. So if you can, get comfortable with it, take a course in how to kind of create social media video content for your business, and put it out there. We talked about this before, but with your content, position yourself as the subject matter expert. Or the go-to business for whatever it might be, XYZ. Solve people's problems, and don't forget to promote your business, your products, your services. People need to know who you are, what you do, and how you can help them. And lastly, I'll leave you with this, but Rome wasn't built in a day. So if you're kind of quite new to social media from a business perspective, give yourself a break, do some research, and try kind of a small thing, maybe once a week or once a month, and add it into your kind of social media routine, and see how it goes. But don't expect too much. And also the other thing is, if you want to just get on with running your business, that you're passionate about, at the end of the day, you can always outsource it, but just give yourselves a break and just kind of add in small things to your social media strategy, one at a time, and see how they work for you. So this is my nervous bit. To round things off, again, if you could pop one emoji in the chat, tell me how you feel now about using social media for your business, and let's see how everyone's feeling after that deluge of information. Deborah, are you there? Can you tell me what the sentiment is now?
Yeah, I'm on hand. I'm just waiting to see if there's any responses. I'm going to take no response is good response. I think that.
I'll stop sharing.
Okay, so I'm seeing some positive smiley faces, which is always good. Yes, smiley faces, a bit perplexed eyeballs. I think that's a new emoji, yeah. But smiling faces, yeah. So I think that's a good note to end that on. Thanks, Claire.
No problem.
So I'm going to come back on screen. So now is thank you so much, Claire. That's really
pleasure. Sorry, lots of information in a very short space of time.
No, but I think you've given the seminal points, and there's always opportunities to ask questions now.
Yeah.
Also, in the follow-up session and network sessions. So don't be afraid if there's something that you want to kind of get further clarification on. Now is your opportunity. So I'm just going to go to, does anyone actually have a question? I saw Reginald's hand up during the whole of the presentation. Reginald, did you want to ask a question or? No?
Initially, I was asking why I couldn't see faces, because I assumed that we'd be able to view each other. I soon realised, I'm sorry I left my hand up, that I wasn't meant to see Deborah or Claire or Ed or Dimitri or Lucy or Naomi. Yeah, having said that, I do a blog for a national newspaper group. I used to do one every day, about 800 to 1,000 words. I used to be mad trying to come up with it. Now I only do about 2. But on that, it's completely Google friendly, in the sense that sort of every word that's on there, at least every noun and proper noun, is seen by Google, and I don't need to put a hashtag on. Amongst the social media platforms, are there any others where that's the case, or is it that exclusive to sort of high-profile newspaper blogs?
No, I mean, I think everyone, particularly businesses, if you're using Instagram, I absolutely think hashtags are necessary. Facebook, as I say, it's been.
Face.
Sorry?
I said a face. I can see you at last.
Yes, you can see me now. Here I am. Yeah, so on Facebook, it's still up in the air about whether Facebook have started to introduce hashtags, but I think people have been very slow to kind of take it up. So LinkedIn, though, LinkedIn is a good place to use hashtags, and actually, as you type the hashtags in, they'll suggest relevant hashtags for you. Twitter hashtags, absolutely. So yeah, I just think you've been given an opportunity to reach more people through the use of hashtags, and that's what hashtags are. They are kind of tools to reach more people. So it doesn't matter who you are. I think if you're a small business up to a kind of national newspaper, hashtags are a really important kind of tool for you, definitely.
Oh, right, yeah, because I mean, they advised me that I didn't need to put hashtags on my blogs because
no, not on your blogs. And I think if you're promoting the blogs on a social media platform like Instagram, for example, then by all means use those hashtags, but not on a blog itself.
Right, okay, thank you.
No problem.
Just going to go to the chat now. Some really good positive comments for you coming through, Claire. I'm
really glad to see that. I'm really glad that it's been useful for some of you.
Yeah, one of the best social media masterclasses they've been to since lockdown. So that's great. I'm glad we've been able to secure you then.
Yeah, no, that's really good to hear.
We've got a comment from Stephen Hewitt. Stephen, do you want to unmute yourself and ask the question, please? Is Stephen still here? Stephen, are you still here? Do you want to ask the question? Okay, I'll ask the question on your behalf then. No, actually, sorry. Great information. If you did want to outsource some help, how would I go about it? So I think I'm on this one.
So I think Ed and Dimitri from Mastersome and the Tower Hamlets team will have my contact details that I'm sure they'll be happy to share afterwards. But in general terms, if you did want to outsource your social media, you've got various options. I mean, from just a one-to-one power hour, for example, where if you have a particular challenge with social media for your business, you could literally just get some kind of expert advice on that particular topic. You could get a social media manager to write a strategy roadmap for you to then go away and action to implement, or you can kind of do a complete outsource, so someone to manage your social media platforms on a regular basis. Equally, there are professionals out there like myself who offer a service of content creation or copywriting. So, it depends on what end of the spectrum you're at and how much support you need. But, there are some great resources out there, and I'm really happy to kind of receive emails or, chat to anyone. I offer free discovery calls. So if you've got particular problems and you just want a quick chat to see what kind of support you might need, then feel free to contact me. And as I say, Ed and Dimitri will share my contact details with you.
Thanks, Claire. Reginald, you have your hand up again. Did you want to ask another question?
Yep. My business, I've been trading for 30 years, and I sell antique maps and prints. So I've probably got about 1 million in my library. Yeah. I'm also a picture framer, and so there's like a bit of a dichotomy between the two businesses. We're at Canary Wharf, so I rely quite heavily on the immediate area for the picture framing. But with so many maps and prints, I can't understand why I'm not selling as much worldwide, although today I'm posting 2 things to America, but nevertheless, I've probably got 600 images of the American Civil War.
Okay.
Should I use a hashtag American Civil War in order to get to a user group in America, an interest group that are interested in their history?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, is this Reginald? Is this on Instagram? And which platform are you actually promoting?
Well, I use Hootsuite to do a sort of generic one, so it goes. The same thing goes to
to multiple platforms. Yeah, absolutely. Within Instagram, I would really recommend doing some research within the platform itself. If you go to search and you click tags, and then you can type in an example of what's related to your business, and see what's getting the most hits, see which hashtags are being used the most, which are getting the most love, and try and kind of jump off the back of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit naive. I saw that love was one of the top words used. So I started using that, but it didn't have much impact.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely don't have. I mean, hashtags, as I said, is a topic I could talk on for hours. The difference between the use of hashtags in posts and the use of hashtags in stories is quite big. So when you are posting on Instagram, the most important thing is that you use hashtags that are kind of relative to the size of your own following. So I would go for hashtags that are still relevant to what you're trying to promote and what you're talking about, but that have kind of less people following it or using it. Conversely, if you're using Instagram stories, try and use the hashtags with quite kind of big followings and a lot of uses. So those that have got kind of 300,000 plus uses up to kind of 1 million. But yeah, I would avoid things like.
So if I say something like, I love hashtag this map hashtag of such.
So I would maybe use the hashtag I love maps, or hashtag map. Maps of the American Civil War, that kind of thing. But the key thing here is just to do your research. And there are also kind of online tools that you can use that can tell you which hashtags have the most uses and the most follows, but also they'll suggest hashtags related to that one as well. Right. So yeah, I mean, I use I think it's an online tool called Meta. It's called Meta Hashtags. I'll just pop that in the. It's called Meta Hashtags. If you just Google it, you can use that tool, and it will give you an overview of how popular that hashtag is, and some other related hashtags that you could think to use as well. Lovely.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Reginald. Ian Dunn, you've got a message. Do you want to mute yourself, or if you're having difficulty unmuting yourself, Lucy, could you try to unmute him, please?
I'm unmuted.
Okay, great.
Okay.
I don't know how to fly this. Hi there. Yeah, my mind is kind of blown with all this information.
I know. I'm not surprised.
There's so much there. I just going back to that LinkedIn. I've got about 7,000 on the free part. And I keep wondering, do I need to go to the paid element to reach a bigger market?
Do you mean the paid membership or paid advertising on LinkedIn?
Membership.
Potentially no. I always think that the paid membership of LinkedIn is kind of most useful when you're actually job hunting. Right. I don't think it's necessarily that effective when it comes to your reach or reaching a new audience for people for your business, users of your business or service. That's my take on it. But I do think the paid version is probably your best bet when you're kind of job hunting. That's my opinion anyway.
Because mainly I do training, education training, providing short accredited courses like first aid, you'll cover legislation. Yeah. So by the sounds of it, going on the free one is much better.
Yeah, and just make sure that LinkedIn is also a social media platform. Just be, if you can write articles that add value, that position you as the subject matter expert, if you're conversing with people on a regular basis, joining in on other conversations and commenting on other people's posts, that will do you the world of good on LinkedIn. It's as sociable as Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. It's really important on LinkedIn in particular that you position yourself as an expert and you add value.
Right, okay. The other question I asked is, you said about writing content on a regular basis.
Yeah.
The problem I find is it's difficult to inwardly look at yourself to promote yourself. So I thought, what do I write? What do I do?
Yeah, I mean, I think you start with the basics and kind of go from there. And, as I said during the workshop, tell people who you are Tell people about any training that you've done, any achievements that you've had. Tell people what your business does and how it can solve their problems, how it can help them. Make sure you kind of allow people to get, so people know how to get in touch with you. Writing kind of opinion pieces on kind of current affairs, for example, anything that's current or topical within your kind of field of expertise, that's relevant to your business. But also, the other thing that you could do, Ian, is I don't know if it's feasible for you, but every now and then outsource some of the writing to a copywriter. And some of them are charging kind of between 5 and 10p per word, for example. It doesn't have to be a kind of a huge financial outlay for that. And they will have, if you find someone who's kind of specific to your niche, they'll be able to kind of come up with topic ideas for content for you as well.
Would that be a case of like Googling a person, or?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, lots of copywriters will have websites and a lot won't. A lot of copywriters and social medias, like myself, most of my work has come through word of mouth. So use your LinkedIn network and ask for recommendations for copywriters who, might specialize in your niche.
Great. Okay, well, thanks for that.
Pleasure. I'm glad I could help.
Cheers.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Just either raise your hand or put it in the chat. I think we've got room for one more question from a guest. If not, I've got a question which I was noting down as you were speaking, Claire. I was like, oh, which question do I want to ask? Because even as a local authority, we promote both in terms of our work, but also we try to promote our local businesses. And it's, what is the best way to do it? It's kind of like, how long is a piece of string? But on your point about analytics, is there kind of a litmus test to determine which is the best platform and how long you should invest in it before you deem it either successful or move on, kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of how long is a piece of string, but I always think, ask people, where they spend their time, what their favorite platforms are. There are definitely, specific industries that have their place on particular networks and platforms. I just think, if you're kind of testing and trying to refine over a maybe kind of 3 to 6 month period and you're not seeing the results that you want, then you need a kind of change of tack. You need to try to maybe change direction and look at a different strategy. If you're a B2C business and you're a product-based business, Instagram, it should be a real no-brainer for you. That should be your platform. Facebook, if you've got money to spend on advertising your product or your brand, great. Because it's a platform basically for friends and family to keep in touch, you've got to pay to play. LinkedIn, if you're B2B, should absolutely do its thing for you. And if you are comfortable and happy and quite kind of handy with creating video, YouTube is seriously powerful now. YouTube is a key thing. Equally, if you've got a very young kind of audience of kind of children or teens or parents, then things like Snapchat and that kind of thing is probably your best bet. But yeah, I think you've just got to, with analytics, you've just got to keep testing, keep refining, and that's just going to be the story throughout your social media kind of use. It's as the social networks change the algorithms and make tweaks to their algorithms, you equally will have to kind of change your strategy to kind of keep up with it. And unfortunately, they move the goalposts so often these days. So, occasionally it's good to just get an insider's kind of expert opinion on where your focus should be at that point in time.
And just on your point about paid for advertising, at what point should a business consider paid for advertising?
I think if you're really, as a small business, if you're putting, so much kind of blood, sweat and tears into social media and it's not giving you the results that you need, whether that's pure sales, whether it's kind of, building an email list, whether it's brand awareness, I think, you know, you can spend you know, £5 a day for, you know, 10 days. It's not a huge investment, and again, it's just testing whether that works for your business and your brand. But you know, you can reach an incredible number of people with Facebook advertising. I mean, I specialize in Facebook advertising, which obviously advertises across Facebook and Instagram. But Google advertising equally, I don't know much about. That's kind of next on my tick list of training. But equally, I just think, as with everything social media related, try it and see if it works for you. And you don't have to put a huge amount of money into it to see if it works.
Okay. Thank you so much. We've come to the end of the presentation now and this part of the masterclass. So I personally really want to thank Claire for giving up your time and spending it with us. So if we all could just thank Claire, either in a chat or a silent virtual applause, but thank you so much for that. We're just going to wrap up now. So I'll hand over to my colleague Lucy to just talk about, briefly give an overview about the next steps with regards to the survey link. Lucy?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm just going to pop a feedback form in the chat. So if you're able to complete that for us, that would be wonderful, because it's going to help us to develop the masterclass series as we move forward. I'm also going to pop in a link as well. If you want to be kept informed of future masterclasses, you can register your interest there. We'll pop up information about all future masterclasses, and we'll just keep you informed as we develop the series anyway. But yes, that's it from me. But thank you very much, Claire. Really informative and really useful for us as well in terms of promoting the masterclasses. Really great. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Just before we close, and I'll give Ed and Dimitri an opportunity to speak just after, just to let you know of some upcoming events that we've got. The next masterclass, which is on the 1st of October, will focus on post-COVID recovery and resilience. And so we've got a jam-packed session for you there. So hopefully you'll be able to join us. And the link within the chat, you'll be able to register your interest. And then again, on the 15th of October, we've got a new project announcement and an intro to the delivery team. So that's actually alongside the work masterclasses that we are running. We've actually got new projects to help support your business, tangible support for your business. So again, register for those, and as soon as they go live, you'll be able to secure your space, and then you'll be able to meet the team and talk to us a bit more about those events coming forward. Ed and Dimitri from Masterclass, do you want to close with any final words before we head into the networking session?
Yeah, sure. Just want to say a big thanks to Claire and the enterprise team. It added a lot to my to-do list, so thank you. And I'll just say the world of social media in digital marketing is so vast. It really takes a lot of focused efforts to get the grips with it. So it was great to hear from you. The good news is we are not alone. You are not alone. We are here to help further. So just reach out to me. It would be great to have a chat and see how we can help further. As Claire said, we can work on one-on-one advice, social media audit, planning, road mapping, execution of social media management. We can do a lot. So to that note, I'll just say thank you.
Thanks, Eduardo. Dimitri?
Yeah, just want to say thank you. Huge thanks to Claire for a very informative, very broad presentation. I understand that you had several massive topics, and you've done a great job at condensing them in a very digestible format. Huge learning for me as well. And as in previous times, a huge thanks to Lucy and Deborah and all the team of Tower Hamlets for organizing and facilitating this workshop together with us. We are staying for the networking sessions, and we'll be happy to network with you guys, with those of you who are staying for it.
Well, thank you, guys. Well, this now concludes this part of the session, and we will be entering into the networking. So please do stay on. If you have one-to-one questions that you want to ask Claire pertinent to your business, this is the perfect opportunity for you to do so. And look forward to hopefully seeing some of you at the future events, masterclasses. So take care and have a good week. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Deborah.